it was a fabulous December. The question mark only is whether 2018 can see something like that happen for McDonald's and for the industry at large. So let's talk about all of that and more with Amit Jatia of Westlife Development. He joins us right now on the show. Amit, good having you. Thanks so much for joining in. What happened in the October, November, December quarter? Was it also the impact of a low base that helped, or is this a trend which will stay strong for calendar year 18?
Well, fortunately, at least from a Westlife point of view, we've had 10 quarters of positive same-store sales growth. And in fact, we've navigated both demonetization and GST quite well in any case. So, for example, last year in the same period, our same-store sales growth were already 5.5%. And on top of the 5.5%, we were able to deliver 20.7%. So I think the resultant is due to the strong foundation that we've laid onto our business over the last 3 years, along with tailwinds in the consumer spend. So I think when both of them have come together, it's worked out quite well for us. I think the work we've done from a McDonald's point of view and all the changes we've made, right from how brand extensions are playing out with McCafe and delivery, all the work we've done around the menu. So we had Flavors Without Borders, 12 new products at the same time, including Chatpata Naan, which was, which resonated really well with the consumers. The Chatpata Naan had Aloo Tikki and priced at 49 rupees. And then we had 3 or 4 beverages as well that we launched along with it. Also, we've been on a journey over the last 3 years on the nutritious and the wholesome food side. And, we brought down the calorie content of sauces by 60-70%. We've introduced whole wheat wraps. All our ice creams are cow's milk with 3% fat. I think a culmination of all this is what has sort of led to good results. And to answer your question about 2018, I'm quite positive about where we are heading. I think the tailwinds in the consumer spending is continuing to work positively. And along with that, all the things I just talked about puts McDonald's and Westlife in a very solid position from a QSR industry point of view. So to answer your question, I'm quite excited about 2018.
Amit, hi, good morning. This is Menaka here. You've made us hungry with that long description of food that you introduced and that is doing well. You keep mentioning tailwinds from a consumer spend point of view. Are you just suggesting that spending is coming back, or are you saying that spending has increased? And I mean individual ticket size spending. Because the reason I'm bringing this up is I think the more I see of the QSR industry, the more I see it being under pricing pressure. One of your competitors is advertising 2 burgers for $50 on TV. And it's just, you've got to wonder, 2 burgers for $50? So are you seeing a lot of sort of pressure on the ticket size of purchase?
Well, let me first start by saying that even in our most difficult times, when the GDP in the economy in 13, 14 and 15 had dropped quite considerably, I think McDonald's took a different approach. Westlife reinvested back in the business. We started re-imaging our restaurants. We did menu innovation. We re-imaged adding McCafe. We started pushing the delivery business. So we have never resorted to discounting. Our philosophy is either everyday value, and therefore the Happy Price menu, which we sort of laid the foundations for and were first movers in 2004, has made McDonald's a value brand for the consumer for a very, very long time. So I don't think from a McDonald's point of view, if you look at even the Flavors Without Borders.
No, forgive me for interrupting you actually, but I'm sure that this puts some degree of competitive pressure on players like you as well, right? If a very close competitor is offering, what they claim such great value at such low prices, what kind of pressure does it put on you in terms of product offering? That's one. Is this also a result of the fact that people are spending less and less in QSR restaurants, than in, let's say, dining more elaborately outside? Is this a consumer trend that's here to stay?
See, if you look at our actions speak louder than words. And if you look at the introduction in the recent Flavors Without Borders, it's all around beverages that were McCafe beverages priced at 140, 150 rupees. We had the American veggie cheeseburger and the non-cheeseburger, both priced at over 100 rupees. I don't think that McDonald's and Westlife wants McDonald's to be a brand that is only used because of pricing. Of course, we have to be everyday affordable. But I think the big significant shift is if you go visit our restaurants and you see the look and feel, you see the digital menu boards where we are engaging the product with the consumer. If you look at the self-ordering kiosk where consumers and the table service that we've started offering, putting the calorie count very clearly on the menu board, I think all of this culmination has led to the differentiation. So you will see McDonald's has not advertised on television just a plain price point. I think we left that as early as 2012 and 2013. From a consumer point of view, we are seeing both. We are seeing the average check go up and we are seeing increased footfalls. What we are seeing is that, for example, take Diwali or take December. When there is celebration happening, we are seeing consumers spend more. And then the minute the celebration goes down, we are seeing the consumers becoming conservative. So every time, for example, there's a good movie and there is a reason for outing, we are seeing consumers spend more, visit McDonald's, and both average check as well as footfalls. So I do believe that that is a positive sign, because in the last, other than this year, that is FY18, we were not seeing a trend like that. While McDonald's gave positive same-store sales growth, they stayed in the mid-single-digit numbers. From April of 2018, April of 2017, we saw 8.7% after we launched the Happy Price combos. Then we did menu innovation again, and in the other quarter of July, August and September, we again saw 8.1%.
Okay.
So and then 20.1%. So I think the trajectory is right.
Okay, so
it's in the right direction.
Okay, so do you believe that same-store sales growth for the first half, I don't know if it's possible to predict for the whole year because consumer trends may change visibly, but do you believe that lower double digits or even mid double digits same-store sales growth is a distinct possibility for the first couple of quarters for calendar year 18?
Absolutely it is. Okay. I think, we've been very cautious. We generally don't talk about forward-looking statements, but in our last earning calls, we kind of indicated to the market that high single digit to low double digit, and we are quite confident that that's the direction we are going to see, at least for the first half of 2018.
One question, there was an article which was, of course, about McDonald's USA, wherein there was a distinct shift in consumer preferences, wherein they either preferred the extreme low end or the low ticket, low costing foodstuffs, and then the high end foodstuff, the mid range was non-existent as per that article for McDonald's USA. In your experience over the last 6 to 9 odd months, have the spends been across the pricing spectrum, or are they concentrated at particular price points?
Actually, the markets are very different. I think India is still very nascent with QSR, and
yes,
right now it's about trials. And in fact, the penetration of QSR is also still very limited, which is why I believe that this sector is poised for growth. Obviously, in every economy, there'll be ups and downs, so you cannot expect it to grow every year. But as the economy turns around, this is a sector that's going to grow. From our point of view, we find spends across the board. So, for example, if you look at the famous Aloo Tikki is known to be a value product that resonates extremely well with consumers. Some time ago, I think a year ago, we introduced the Mexican Aloo Tikki, and with the Mexican Aloo Tikki, obviously the price points were a bit higher with jalapenos, etc., etc. And we found that consumers absolutely loved it. Most recently with the Chatpata Naan, if Aloo Tikki is at say 35 rupees, the Chatpata Naan is at 49 rupees. But I was in one of our restaurants in Sion recently, and all the tables around me were basically loving the naan, the Chatpata Naan with an Aloo Tikki. So we are seeing a college student buy an Aloo Tikki along with a smoothie, and a smoothie may be 165 rupees. The key is, do they find value in that 165 rupees? So we think that across the spectrum, we are seeing consumers, as long as the product resonates with them and they find value in that. And we have a lot of research methodologies when we price. So for example, before we priced the Chatpata Naan, we did research amongst consumers and we did a price sensitivity study.
I'm sure.
And essentially the whole idea was to put the product at value for the consumer. And to answer your question, yes, I do find purchasing across the chain of our products.
Okay.
I mean, the last point to sort of answer your question also, that McDonald's is not just low pricing. We have products across the whole spectrum.
Yeah, which is why I asked you whether you're seeing it across the spectrum or at particular price points. Amit, last question from mine at least. What does all of this mean for numbers?
Sure.
From a shareholder's perspective, stock price movements are subject to a lot of market vagaries. Your stock has been steady at best, but does an earnings growth uptick cycle or upcycle come in over the next 2 years, which leads to some more upsides for the stock as well? I mean, do you believe an earnings growth upcycle is in play now?
Absolutely. I think the biggest difference of Westlife is consistent results. You will see that 10 quarters of consistent same-store sales growth, 10 quarters of consistent cash flow growth, 10 quarters of every margin growth very consistently. So we've put ourselves around predictability, around consistency of growth. And therefore, the foundation kind of work we are doing is around platform building. So McCafe is a platform. It's not a discount-driven consumer-led growth. So I'm quite confident that margin growth will sort of accompany the comparable sales growth that we are seeing as well. Obviously, we are a high operating leverage business, and therefore, with comparable sales growing or same-store sales growing, clearly margin growth has to come. And I think we've demonstrated that over the last 10 quarters. So you will see that in the coming quarters as well.
Hey, great, Amit. We've just got a few seconds left to go before we're at the end of time. So any further expansion plans that you've not already discussed before that you'd like to update our viewers with?
Sure. I mean, I think we are firing on all cylinders. Essentially, we have an outlay of about 750, 800 crores to add another 200, 250 restaurants by 2022. That's our Vision 2022 document that we've put out. We are adding about 50 McCafes a year. So the idea is to take McCafes to over 350 as well. Our delivery hubs are also growing. Our breakfast launch is going to extend from 100 stores to 200, 250 stores. And yes, we are firing on all cylinders, 750 crore outlay, 2,000 jobs a year. So over the next 5 years, another 10,000 people in our employment. We are quite excited about where we are heading.
All right. Thanks very much for joining us this morning. There you've got it. Amit Jatia laying out McDonald's, or rather Westlife's plans here in India.